Oh, we got to fix that intro music. Oh, man alive. It's way too loud, but we're way too old? No, never
Not
too
yet.
old for the Waiver Wire show. Week 6, the Audible, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and the injury rounds abound in Carolina as we go over Dr. Jean's injury report. It's the Monday injury rounds, week 6. The full report is available at footballguys.com. And because we miss our colleague and our dear friend, Dr. Jean, we always got to throw up a little love for Dr. Jean Bramall as I go over the injury report. And it's Baker Mayfield, Baker the baby maker. We're worried about that. Of course, he's going to miss time with that high ankle sprain. And then, of course, Sam Darnold, he's already out. So it's P.J. Walker time. You're worried about Russell Wilson. And something I said on Orange and Blue today, I think I said it on this show, Bloom, like he's not healthy. For everyone that loves to make fun of Russell Wilson, he hasn't been healthy in like 2 weeks. So he's playing through it, and it's a mistake, just like last year when he wasn't healthy and he played through it, and it was a mistake. So we get to your upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report, Sigmund. It's available at footballguys.com. The quarterbacks, and I think you may be talking about this on the couch, but it's Geno Smith. Can he keep it up?
Yeah, why should we assume he can't, right? We go back and look in context. Having a poor game against San Francisco.
Enough film on him. I'll play devil's advocate to that.
Okay.
I mean, because Geno Smith, it's not like he's an unknown quantity, which I guess works against my point.
When has he played with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett?
Right. Well, last year, right? He had to play with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So once teams get enough film, listen, I don't think Geno Smith's any sort of revelation, right? Like he's the greatest ever, but like, no, they'll figure him out. Teams always figure you out. Doesn't matter how talented you are.
Well, look, you're right that there will be against good defenses, right? I mean, this weekend's Arizona. So don't look for it this weekend. Don't look for this week for him to get figured out. No. And I think that, what did he do last week? He throws the deep ball to Tyler Lockett. He's obviously got that in sync. There was one of the deep balls he threw. Folks said when he let it go, it looked like it was triple coverage. It looked like an interception. It was perfect. And he had that deep ball back in West Virginia. He was a talented passer. He was a talented, and I know this is like a great football term of art, right? He was a talented thrower. Is that fair?
He wasn't Pat White. Everyone always remembers things.
He was a passer. Remember when Pat White won? There's your Senior Bowl messenger, and he was the Senior Bowl MVP, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mayock loved him.
So look, against good defenses, against San Francisco level defenses. By the way, San Francisco's defense is banged up, so we'll see what that changes. We play Atlanta this weekend. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. My point is this. You had a San Francisco game where Geno Smith got shut down by a really good defense. Okay, right? I think there was one other game that he wasn't a strong fantasy quarterback. I mean, Denver. And Denver's defense is good. We're really going to hold that against him. See, weeks 3 to 5, he's the number 2 fantasy quarterback behind only Josh Allen. And you can say matchups. Well, they're going to be more good matchups. My point is this. Geno Smith, I would expect to finish as a top 10, top 12 quarterback based on what we've seen. And you can get that on the waiver wire this week. I have him at 20 to 40%. But I think, this is also one where you price and force and you put a 10% bid. Because you don't want one of the other teams in your league that is scuffling at quarterback or otherwise shanked their picks, took Russell Wilson, right? Took Russell Wilson and Trey Lance or whatever. You don't want them to get away with that, right?
Right.
Not to mention the next week it could be your quarterback that gets hurt. You're cruising, you're loving it with them. Well, Lamar Jackson hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, but the point is you're loving it. Next week it's your guy that goes down. So Geno Smith is a known quantity. Again, for the last 3 weeks, quarterback 2. He's surrounded by good talent in the passing game. We're going to talk about his running back here in a second. This is a good offense. And again, we are forced to ask, was Russell Wilson actually holding back the Broncos? The Broncos. There's a Freudian slip for you, right? This is that moment in the movie where everything starts swirling. You're like, oh my God, the whole time. Pete Carroll was right.
There's too many things outside of football. I don't think Pete Carroll's right. I think Pete Carroll's a jerk. And honestly, it's windows with Geno Smith. I hate to be the naysayer, but it's like you had a window with Geno Smith. You missed it. It's not going to be better. It may continue, but tougher defenses will figure him out. Here's the problem. There's too much outside of football for Russell Wilson. And I'm not doing he's a jet setter and but he's so Bloom. We shouldn't be doing this now. I said I wouldn't do a Broncos rant today. Like, we're 5 minutes in, and here's the biggest problem with Russell Wilson. It's the fact that he is so worried about his flipping image that he's not worried about the football. Geno Smith's not worried about his image. It was all taken away from him. It was robbed from Geno Smith. He never had that opportunity. He said it's a slappy Jets team. So now it's just football with Geno Smith.
Yeah.
With Russell Wilson, here's exactly what's going on. And I don't care if I'd get in trouble for saying this. This is exactly what's going on. He has a reputation as a me guy. He knows he has a reputation as a me guy. He's worried about that reputation as a me guy. So he's not being a me guy. You need to be a me guy, Russ. You need to be you need to get healthy. One, he's not healthy. He's going to try to play through it. But he's so worried about how he's seen.
Sure.
That that is altering the way that he plays.
It's extra energy that you don't need, right?
Yes.
I mean, you see, even sometimes when it's like Robert Saleh saying, got the receipts. Why are you even paying attention? Why are you even paying attention? How do you even have enough energy left over to pay attention to any of this stuff? Anyway, but Geno Smith, and look, just to put the rubber where the rubber meets the road, so you got Arizona, the Chargers, the Giants, and Arizona up the next 4 weeks. So if he's going to get figured out, I don't think it's going to be during that stretch. Now, you do have Tampa left on the schedule. You have the Rams left on the schedule. San Francisco, again, left on the schedule. Kansas City's defense is not necessarily a pushover against the pass, at least. So there are some matchups where you might not play Geno Smith, but at worst, Cease, we're looking at Geno Smith as a matchup quarterback one. Someone you're going to put in, and certainly this week against Arizona. And again, this year, because so many quarterbacks are underperforming, that is more valuable than we're used to.
Okay, it's the Geno Smith show.
Yeah,
with the mini Geno. Broncos rant. Mini.
Well, it's because he's got his moment in the spotlight, and we want to savor that because he deserved that long before this. He should have gotten more opportunities. Jacoby Brissett. There's quarterbacks that are getting opportunities, and we want to take a moment out to say these guys, they're not top 12 quarterbacks. They're not going to get $40 million a year, but they can improve some teams. Like Geno Smith has made Seattle a lot better. See, I might actually say the most important thing to get right that was unforeseeable, because there are things that you got right that were foreseeable with Seattle even, right? Like, Rashad Penny, injury prone, make sure you draft Kenneth Walker and hold on to him. Foreseeable. What was not foreseeable is that Geno Smith was going to elevate this offense, right? So if you had an inkling of that and you took DK Metcalf at ADP, you took Tyler Lockett at ADP. Those are two of the most important picks of fantasy drafts this year. So let's take a moment out to say, Seattle's offense isn't bad is something that most of us were not factoring in.
Yes, and not just about the ground game. It's about the receivers as well. Bloom, nobody saw this coming except for the people that engagement farm on Twitter and say everything twice. Sure. Like, Geno Smith's going to be great. Geno Smith's going to be awful.
Yeah.
Like me. Follow me.
Yeah.
Anyway. Twitter's awful. Hi, Joe. If I cuss today, it's because Sigmund brought up Russell Wilson. So, Joe, blame him.
I'll take the weight.
That is right. Not Geno Smith. We got more to talk about at the quarterback position, including Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, Kenny Pickett, Zach Wilson. That is our 7 to 15% and 5 to 10%ers in your upgrades, downgrades, and waiver wire report.
A lot of speculation here, Cease. A lot of speculation, but a preview of the hold on, shut him down segment. Are you shutting down Russell Wilson for these quarterbacks? I am. Well, what are we waiting around for? He's hurt. We know he has a torn muscle in his throwing. I'm bringing up Russell Wilson again. Sorry, Joe. He has a torn muscle in his throwing shoulder. That's not going to get better, and it's going to be rough. Matthew Stafford, the offensive line could come together a month or so, maybe. Now, here's some speculative pickups. I'm putting Justin Fields at the top because it makes sense that now 5 weeks in, new offensive coordinator, that things are settling down for this offense. He's throwing the ball more efficiently as a passer. We had a big gain, a touchdown run that was taken back, or we might be talking about him as a breakout player. You get a Thursday night game against Washington, not a very good defense, a high visibility game. So I think he's the next priority after Geno. However, you might see it differently, and that's okay, because there's a lot of different paths to value here for these guys. Daniel Jones, Brian Dable had the revelation that Daniel Jones is big and he can run. wow, you can use that. You can use that even whenever your number one receiver is Darius Slayton, who we'll talk about.
And I think more people were on the Daniel Jones could be better because of Dable than the Geno Smith conversation we just had.
3 fourth quarter comebacks. 3. Daniel Jones has 3 fourth quarter comebacks this year. So something's happened. Confidence.
Fit.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett. Remember this. Kenny Pickett has had to come in the second half of a game, and he scored 2 rushing touchdowns. And then he actually put up the best fantasy stat line. Well, I think he was like a point below Lamar Jackson. My point is what he did last week against Buffalo was really not that bad. It's Buffalo. So what's he going to do now? Granted, it's Tampa this week, but what's he going to do when he gets some easier defenses? He's got some tremendous talent around him. Speaking of tremendous talent around him, Zach Wilson.
Woo!
Look, last week it was Michael Carter and Breece Hall. Okay. Zach Wilson actually did get a rushing touchdown, but you have all of this talent around him in the passing game, including Breece Hall and Michael Carter. So it's going to pop off. I mean, one of the simplest things in fantasy, I think a lot of people are doing good work on this, and you can have a metric to quantify it or something like that. But here's the metric, just total touchdowns for an offense. If you see total touchdowns for an offense at a good level, the quarterback's eventually going to get his, or if the quarterback's getting all of it, the running back's going to eventually get his. So you see the Jets put up that kind of point total, you're much more interested in their quarterback. So these are all speculative guys. They all have running ability. And obviously Daniel Jones and Fields have the extra added boost of being used as a runner by design. Pickett and Wilson have the boost of having great receivers around them that can add value to their targets. And I think all 4 of these guys should be on your roster instead of Russell Wilson or Matthew Stafford.
Okay, moving down waiver wire report, upgrades, downgrades. It is at footballguys.com. Carson Wentz, 3 to 5%, and then a bunch of 1%ers,
Right.
which are interesting. Nick Foles, Desmond Ridder, watch. Skylar Thompson, who we love. P.J. Walker, I mentioned the Baker Mayfield injury. And Bailey Zappi. Now, Bloom, when we think of like nobody would expect this, P.J. Walker might have a little punch to him. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. You get rid of Matt Rule, ding dong, the witch is dead. And Steve Wilkes, God bless him. He didn't get any change
back
in Arizona. He got 0 change. Here's Josh Rosen. Here you go. What? You didn't win with Josh Rosen? You're fired.
Right.
Well, now he's back. So, yeah, PJ, 1.5%.
Sure.
For PJ Walker.
There might be something there. Right. I mean, we'll see. There's the freedom of no expectations. I don't know if Carson Wentz has that. And it was brought up this morning that if Carson Wentz plays more than 70% of the snaps, Washington has to give up a 2nd-round pick instead of a 3rd-round pick, which is like an early 2nd-round pick. Okay. So maybe we'll start talking about Sam Howell here as Wentz gets closer to that 70% threshold.
Right.
But with Carson Wentz, I could have grouped him with the other players. He has that we just talked about. He has some running ability. He obviously has the deep ball. He has good talent around him at wide receiver. But the thing about Wentz is even whenever the matchup's good and everything looks good, sometimes he'll just fall apart. So there's more risk there when you play him. Of course, you might say Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. There's risk there for these guys too. But we don't know what they are in so much as they're still in that upslope part of their career. And they could really hit cruising altitude like Wentz did with the Eagles for a little while there. But with Wentz, you don't know. Still, it's Chicago this weekend or Thursday. Weekend starts Thursday night. It's never not the weekend in New Orleans. Anyway, this is a guy you can play as a spot starter. And 3 out of 5 weeks, he has been a good spot starter. What's interesting, Cecil, you say the word interesting, it's playing in super flex leagues or 2 quarterback leagues because now all this churn at the bottom of the roster with quarterbacks matters, especially now, by the way, public service announcement. We're in the bye week gauntlet now. So not only does the waiver wire get more interesting because sometimes you're picking up someone putting right in your lineup, but the drops get more interesting. People are in a squeeze with their roster. They have to drop some players that are more interesting, and your decisions on who to drop become more interesting. So fantasy football intrigue in those 2 quarterback leagues with Nick Foles, and sees it's just this simple. Frank Reich gets up there and says, Matt, I have total confidence in Matt Ryan. Oh, uh-oh. Where's Nick Foles? Right?
No.
The dreaded vote of confidence with Marcus Mariota. And I know that Atlanta is competitive. And maybe that is for, let's say this, Arthur Smith, not on the rational coaching list, right? If we're trying to simulate what Arthur Smith is thinking, tough, really tough, because he might just be thinking, we're just right there. We could be 5-0 right over the hump, Marcus Mariota's still the guy. I don't know. Kyle Pitts shouldn't play. However, you watch the Atlanta offense and you get a very similar feeling to the Steelers offense earlier this year when he said it's just almost unfair to the players to not at least see what the rookie has. And you have to see what the rookie has because you might be making a big decision about quarterback next year. So that's coming in. Ritter is a runner, so he might help us out. Skylar Thompson didn't look overwhelmed. And I think that there's something there. He may start this week. This is desperation. But again, Detroit, so Jared Goff, Vegas, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, Davis Mills. These aren't actually all-star quarterbacks, but in a 2-quarterback superflex league, you might be depending on them, and you might depend on Skylar Thompson, depending on the report on Teddy Bridgewater. You might depend on Bailey Zappi, depending on the report on Mac Jones. But kudos to these organizations, reminding us again, I can't remember which personnel guy it was that said it. You should take a quarterback every year. Every year you should take a quarterback in the draft.
Yes.
And it's working out for these teams because they're already needing their third-string quarterback.
Yeah, so you don't have to rely on, do we start Brett Rippon or Josh Johnson this week? Matthew brings up, would you like some tea, Bloom?
Oh, boy.
Matthew brings up something. He's like, this is a safe space. Don't fight it, Cecil. The rants are inevitable. Let it all out.
To the Audible, right?
I would say this, and we remember our Jay Cutler Audible trouble that was caused years ago.
That was probably the biggest trouble you ever got in.
Yeah.
That was way back.
Yeah, because I had a player tell me after the game, like, Jay probably tore his knee. And so I said it on this show, like, Jay Cutler probably tore his knee. There's players that think like, it's knowing our luck, he probably tore his knee. And then it got reported on the radio. Cecil Lammey said that Jay Cutler's out for the year. And then, that caused a bunch of problems. But I had a conversation with a Broncos official last week who was like, I really enjoy your videos with Sigmund. I was like, okay. Which ones?
What's he trying to say? Yeah.
Which ones?
Maybe he was just being sinciere and taking it at face value. That you just enjoyed the videos. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for watching.
Did you like, comment, share, subscribe? That's what I should ask him.
Get in the first 15 minutes, especially if you like it. And when you watch at the end, really watch all the way to the end and let the next video. Thanks so much.
Please. So yeah. And thank you for that. Anyway. It is the Audible, and it's upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report, but it's running backs up next. So we got to talk about the injured running backs, which means we go to the Monday injury rounds. Dr. Gene Bramall, and right shoulder sprain for Saquon Barkley. That's not what you want to hear. If you have been riding that Saquon Barkley train and having a bunch of fun, well, you don't want to hear that. You want to be like Conan. You hear the lamentations of your opponent in your fantasy league. Also, the Rashad Penny thing. We'll talk plenty about Kenneth Walker. We might talk about the guys behind him as well. But Rashad Penny now headed into free agency after yet another catastrophic injury. And, Kenneth Walker, it's go time. Go eat. And that's what this young man will do. So, to the upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report. It's available at footballguys.com. Bloom, you write it. Yeah. So let's talk about it because break the bank for Ken Walker. Just do it.
The rare 75+% designation cease. I think in the history of the waiver wire column, we've only had about 4 or 5 of those. We don't dust that off every single year. We only dust that off for Kenneth Walker. And look, he's not available in my league. I get it. I know a lot of y'all are in leagues where Kenneth Walker would never be available. But this also is a chance to talk about overpay for him. Break the bank. Not just in terms of waiver wire, but this is a chance. Yeah, he had the 69-yard touchdown run late, but this is a good offense, okay? Kenneth Walker has those fresh rookie legs, and he's a combative, angry runner. Boy, oh boy, are we going to love watching him every week. And again, defenses are going to be first and foremost concerned with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and that deep ball. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. So I would consider doing things that might seem crazy to trade for Kenneth Walker. These are the kind of moves that maybe you need to make in a fantasy. By the way, did you see the rumor that, speaking of Carolina, that Christian McCaffrey, that the Bills are maybe
house is up for sale. Bills interested. Broncos may be interested.
Yeah. Wow. So plate tectonics in motion, but it's not crazy to think about, I don't know, Joe Mixon for Kenneth Walker or something like that, or Najee Harris plus for Kenneth Walker, like throw some stuff in, Clyde Edwards-Helaire plus for Kenneth Walker. Go crazy here. I mean, consider, we're not going as crazy as saying I think Barkley, Chubb, Ekeler, these kind of guys, you hold.
I
on
was
to them as
actually
tight as you
thinking
can.
about Barkley Bloom as one to be crazy with.
Well,
Because here's the thing
Barkley,
with Barkley, I'm worried about the injury seal,
sure,
which is
Barkley
already
for
broken,
Walker
which we just
and
talked about. Yeah.
right. If you could get Barkley for Walker and something considerable, not something negligent, Barkley for Walker and Chris Godwin or something like that in a PPR league. I don't know. Be creative here, because I think that one of the things I try to hit, and this goes for drafts, this goes for trades during the season, that what looks like an overpay or a reach for a player in a draft today, tomorrow can look brilliant, can make it look like you're way ahead of the curve. Okay, so if Kenneth Walker's not out there on your waiver wire, probably not. That's still no excuse to not have an action item, which is just bombard the Kenneth Walker team, especially if he's their third or fourth running back and they don't need him, and you do need him. This is maybe the biggest waiver wire, not just one of the biggest waiver wire pickups of the year, Cease, but I think it also goes back to our pre-draft preparation. And we say, well, Rashad Penny was great last year, can't stay healthy. Kenneth Walker, they drafted him. And we thought at least they would be committed to the run. We didn't anticipate they would actually have a good and balanced offense. So this is some exciting stuff. It was kind of quiet on the waiver wire for the first 5 weeks, but week 6, we're making some noise. Like you said, it's loud.
Preseason, loud noises. The preseason is over. September is done. And now the waiver wire is very interesting. And the Seahawks offense being better, Bloom, just makes Walker better.
Oh, yeah.
Then they're going to give him 25 carries, and they're going to be 8 in the box.
Team. They could be a playoff team.
Easily. Yeah, easily. Play Vance Joseph in Arizona twice. Certainly does help. Okay, there's other running backs on the waiver wire, not named Kenneth Walker. Nobody's as valuable. Spoiler alert. Right. We're still waiting on Rashad White, Nino, and Benjamin. Kind of the same guy, almost.
Yeah.
12 to 25% and 10 to 20%. And hell, both of them are Arizona State backs. So there you go. Rashad White, Eno Benjamin. Let's talk about those Sun Devils, Bloom, as we continue to be patient.
Yeah, patience. And look, last week it looked like maybe Rashad White was forcing a committee with Leonard Fournette, and then Leonard Fournette goes out and catches 10 balls and gets 2 touchdowns and was helped win you your week. If you had Leonard Fournette, you probably won your week last week. Does that mean, throw Rashad White? No. Rashad White still had 38, 39% of the snaps. Second week in a row. He's still getting 40-ish% of the snaps. And he's in a dink and dunk offense. So one of the things I think we need to really digest here is that Tom Brady's going 100% dink and dunk this year, which is for fantasy fantastic. You can harvest. That's why I brought up Chris Godwin, right? And Rashad White can be that guy. Now, his numbers were down in week 5, but his skills mesh well with what this offense does. And of course, there's the Leonard Fournette injury possibility, which becomes a probability as the season goes on. And I think that Tampa also may want to, I think the 60% snap count level share, whatever, for Fournette is a sign that the Tampa's going to be smart. And it also might mean they like White enough to be smart with Fournette. So White is still a very important player to hold. Benjamin. So you got James Conner, rib. How many different things has James Conner been on the injury report with this year? So you said 3 now? 4? Yeah. I don't even know. You've got Darrell Williams, knee. And that leaves Benjamin, who's looked pretty spry, at least in the passing game. I don't know if anyone can look that spry in the running game for Arizona. They never really get the running game on track. James Conner was actually running pretty well last week against Philadelphia. So with Benjamin, you may see the door close and Conner's back and or Darrell Williams is back. But you also have to look at the writing on the wall because it's a long season. So Conner and Williams both already on the injury report. Conner multiple times. I think that you can see that maybe it isn't this week, but everything is building towards Benjamin becoming a much bigger part of this offense, either by necessity or by the quality of his play. And let's not forget, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be back next week. So this offense is going to get better. And Benjamin is one way or the other also going to produce more.
Bloom, I just can't wait till we talk about Keontae Ingram.
Yeah, maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. Further down, Joshua Kelly with the Chargers, 5 to 10%. Samaje Perine, 5 to 10% as well. And hell, let's just round it off. Tevin Coleman, Mike Boone. And when we talk about Mike Boone as a 1%er, Bloom, I'd go Latavius Murray, 3 to 5%.
Sure.
It's going to be Murray's backfield. They do not trust Melvin Gordon. And I'm leaving as soon as this show's done. I'm leaving to go to the facility to talk to Nathaniel Hackett and watch practice. Again, stretching. But My understanding and the belief is that they do not trust Melvin Gordon. Their actions tell you they do not trust Melvin Gordon. Latavius Murray has a great opportunity here, and more so of an opportunity than Mike Boone, who they do not trust in pass protection.
Right. And I think that including Boone and Murray both as 1%ers or 3 to 5%ers. Boone at least redeemed himself, his hands in the passing game. And Boone, he's got the measurables, explosiveness that you look for. Murray is more of a proven commodity. We'll see what happens with Gordon. I'm just generally less excited to get any back from this offense because of the Russell Wilson injury and because it's not an offense that maximizes the players in it. Cease real quick, just because Cortland Sutton sell high.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm adding that to the picture so people understand, like, well, it's Denver. Because one of the elements was always the player element in the current situation, but there's still just the general environment. The general environment for Joshua Kelly's good.
Yes.
The Chargers running game really got on track. And by the way, Ramondre Stevenson in your DFS leagues, I guess that is a thing, DFS lineups, with Damian Harris likely out this week, Ramondre Stevenson against the Cleveland defense that let Austin Ekeler run free. Yeah, you like that. So Joshua Kelly separating from Isaiah Spiller and Larry Roundtree. If Ekeler goes down, perish the thought. Kelly's looking good. He had a touchdown. He has some standalone value anyway with a touchdown, a few catches last week. Samaje Perine, not quite the standalone value yet, but listen here. What you saw from the Bengals, if that's what their offense is going to look like. Joe Goodberry did some good work on this. If you don't follow Joe Goodberry, what are you doing? So here's the challenge, Cease. It's like the Bengals are a year behind everyone else. How do we get teams out of cover two? How do we call plays and draw things up to beat cover two? They're figuring out, oh, yeah. Oops. It's kind of like when you forgot to drop that letter in the mail. People still mail letters. They on their offseason to-do list. We have to make sure teams are going to play cover two against us. We have to make sure that we know how to beat them. So Samaje Perine could be a bigger part of that. And I think it's going to be an offense that takes what the defense gives them. And Perine looking good, that clear backup. Here we are talking about Tevin Coleman again. But as I think what George Kittle said, Cease, you'll love this. George Kittle said something to the effect of, well, Tevin Coleman knows how to push up against his blocks right before the cutback. So it makes my job easier.
Mm-hmm.
So George Kittle says he presses up against the block. The defender tries to go out wider. I get a pancake block when he cuts back inside.
Right.
And look, Devin Coleman doesn't have the explosiveness anymore, but I think you can see Tyrion Davis-Price is hurt. He wasn't looking that good before he got hurt. Marlon Mack, Jordan Mason, they don't have it just automatically. The software, the updates all downloaded in Tevin Coleman's head for how to run in the system. Right. Mm-hmm. So right now you have Jeff Wilson. If Jeff Wilson gets hurt, Tevin Coleman is the backup and becomes an immediate must start. But even last week, and again, it's the combination of the defense. So the solve for X here, the unknown is, will San Francisco's defense remain this dominant with Nick Bosa banged up, Javon Kinlaw's banged up, Emmanuel Mosley went down with an ACL. You hate to see that. He just had an excellent interception last week too. You hate to see that, and so on. So they were a banged up defense, but they were a dominant defense, which then feeds the running game and feeds the running game enough for someone like Tevin Coleman to actually have fantasy value last week. So this is one of those situations where we all could see with our eyes that Tevin Coleman is past his prime as a running back, but in this system, and it's Kyle Shanahan, we're always psychoanalyzing him. It's a known quantity, and that's more valuable than we think, just like it was last week.
What about Jet McKinnon?
Sure. Well, all right. So Casey was playing from behind, which made it a McKinnon game script. But what did it yield for fantasy, really? And do we expect Kansas City to play against Buffalo this week? So I guess if you have to,
just made me sad because Isaiah Pacheco didn't do anything, and I like to chirp on George Payton. I'm not the smartest guy, Bloom, but I like to chirp at the Broncos general manager for taking Montreal Washington instead of Pacheco or Tariq Woolen, who's the freak, 6'4", runs a 4.240. You didn't want that. You didn't want that.
So, I mean, I could see McKinnon this week against Buffalo as a 1 week pickup if you have Derrick Henry and you have James Conner and you have Damian Pierce, and like you're looking at your backs and you're like, who am I going to even play this week? Even Isaiah Pacheco, and Pacheco is really tough. I didn't include him as a shut him down. Didn't really include him as a hold on either. I think it's more of a deep league question because, unfortunately, I think that you can see that they're only willing to give Pacheco more work when the game makes them feel safe to do that, or otherwise when things are working on offense. And we'll see. I think this is going to unfortunately remain a frustrating backfield. and we'll see. But McKinnon is a 1 week pickup this week because of the matchup against Buffalo, because it's the kind of game that does seem to show us a path to value for McKinnon. I could see it.
Okay. Bloom, this sounds like a defense attorney. Our friend
Yeah,
Jay.
I asked
says,
it. I must have missed it in the chat. Yeah, I know.
had a client take a swing at a bailiff this morning. When
It
are you writing
happens.
your memoirs, Bloom? Because you were a defense attorney.
I was just for like 2.5 months. Remember, I was a failure as a defense attorney. Unlike Drew Davenport, on our staff, who's a tremendous defense attorney. Sigmund L., my late father, rest in peace, was a defense attorney for decades, about almost 40 years in Albuquerque. But I believed everything my clients told me, Cease. That's bad.
Mistake number one.
That's bad. And I couldn't negotiate. I couldn't go in and posture to the prosecutor like I had I had some secret evidence or something.
Right.
You
couldn't lie. You couldn't lie. One thing about Sigmund Bloom is he doesn't lie. Like you're so uncomfortable in any sort of that. But I believe now, Bloom, like the person you are today, I bet you could go crush it in a courtroom again.
Today.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't realize it. See, when I graduated from law school, I thought, well, all these attorneys out there, they're competent and they have their A game. And I as a 24, 25-year-old, now I've learned, I tell the young people every time I meet them, don't assume people out there in the world know what they're doing. Most of them don't. Mm-hmm. Most of them don't.
Yeah. You're older. You got wisdom. It's trying to get by. It's tall grade school, everyone. That's what it is. It's tall grade school. All right. Running backs are wrapped. That means wide receivers are up next. Here it is, the Audible. It is our week 6 waiver wire show. So that means we go to the wide receiver injury report, the injury rounds from Dr. Gene Bramall. It is Monday injury rounds at the wide receiver position. The left foot injury for Tyreek Hill. That's what we're all watching right now. That's what we're all wondering about. That's what we miss. Dr. Gene. There he is. And there he is as Wolvie too. So the Tyreek Hill injury situation, that's what we're monitoring. And left foot injury, waiting information. Hill did not return after being stepped on pretty hard, per Mike McDaniel. The Dolphins didn't provide any additional specifics, but Hill left the locker room in a walking boot. Walking boot doesn't necessarily mean a player has a serious injury. It may just be a precautionary move to limit swelling and relieve pain. Video replays were not conclusive. Hill will be evaluated further this week. And as the week goes on, we'll have more information for you, of course, available at footballguys.com. So let's get into those wide receivers, Bloom. Upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report, and George Pickens. If Kenny Pickett's in, then George Pickens should be in for you at 25 to 50%. Jacoby Myers, could you do what you did earlier, please? 20 to 40% for Jacoby Myers. Let's start with those two this week.
And again, wide netting it, but we get a chance to talk about these players because I'm always using that 60% threshold in Yahoo leagues because this report powers our app. So thanks for your patience and we get to hang out, right? George Pickens. And again, I'll hit it like this. The Steelers are going to play easier defenses than the Bills. All right. It's coming. It's coming for George Pickens. It might be coming for this whole pass offense. See, here's what I'm telling myself. All right. Because right now the Steelers will pick 3rd, I think, in the draft. Either Kenny Pickett is going to play well enough that they're going to win 5, 6, 7 games and not be in a position to take one of the top quarterbacks. Or Kenny Pickett may play his heart out, but not play well enough to get some wins with this team, which puts them in position to take the quarterback. So Kenny Pickett's play and the number of wins will answer the question. And we'll see. These are odd conversations for Steelers fans, but one that's not odd. We have a really, really good young receiver who is, just give him a chance. Just give him a chance, and Kenny Pickett will. Jacoby Myers, and don't forget, going into the 2 games he missed, he had a 9 for 92 line. So you see it with Bailey Zappi. And perhaps when Mac Jones is in, it could actually hurt Myers because Jones is going to have more subtlety, be able to see more, throw downfield more than Zappi. But either way, Jacoby Myers with this offense, and look, one of the things I'll say, there's a long list for all of us. I shouldn't have disrespected Matt Patricia and Joe Judge's offense. They're running the ball extremely effectively, and they understand what they are, which, boy, there are a lot of offenses that could just get great improvements from that and that alone. And Jacoby Myers is part of that. And just like quarterback and running back, there's a lot of intrigue on the waiver wire wide receiver this week.
And a lot of intrigue at wide receiver, so let's get to it. Devin Duvernay, 15 to 30%. Michael Gallup, 10 to 12 to 25%. Sorry. Alec Pierce, 10 to 20%. That's when I get ahead of myself, Bloom. But those three, plenty of intrigue in those situations in Baltimore, Dallas, and Indy.
Getting some Devin Duvernay, Deebo Samuel vibes here, right? Using them in that. And see, isn't this, what did we say about Devin Duvernay coming out of Texas? He's fast. He's built like a running back and thinks like a running back.
Yep.
But he can be a speed slot or a deep threat, not necessarily a truly refined outside receiver. But, there's been some years between now and then. So you have Devin Duvernay now when Rashad Bateman's back, which could be this week against the Giants. Duvernay goes back to a lesser role in the passing game. But Duvernay is a problem for Rashad Bateman, by the way. This is why you either with Rashad Bateman, you get a long touchdown or he doesn't really help your lineup, because Duvernay absolutely is a part of the core of this passing game. And then you have J.K. Dobbins still on a pitch count. Justice Hill's hurt. We'll see when Gus Edwards is back. Didn't mention Gus Edwards in the waiver wire running backs because J.K. Dobbins is okay. He sat in the fourth quarter because he's on a pitch count, and we saw more Kenyon Drake. Devin Duvernay mixed in the running game, and then you get him some deep shots from Lamar Jackson, etc. There's something here with Duvernay, and I am Ian's cat, one of our cats. One of our people in the chat room that we really love to see. He's been beating the drum for Duvernay since week 1, and he had 4 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks, right? So, I mean, we all should have been. Michael Gallup, you're getting out ahead of this. Noah Brown is still getting more snaps than Michael Gallup, but that's going to flip. I think just like Dobbins, they're easing him back in. Dak Prescott will be back 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and now we're cooking with Michael Gallup. So the numbers aren't there yet, but they're coming. Alec Pierce, we've been talking about him on the Waiver show for weeks. Each week he steps up. See, the reason he's not stepping up farther is Matt Ryan or Nick Foles.
Well, Nick Foles and Pierce should have a strong connection from the preseason.
Yeah.
When Pierce was working his way up. So,
yeah,
okay.
You never know. You never know. So Pierce, his snap share got up into the 50s. So he's still not getting on the field over Paris Campbell. You got to think that's going to change. But either way, that's more evidence, right? If he's only on the field 50, 60% of the time and he's getting 8 catches, that's who Matt Ryan's looking for. Again, we'll see potentially the chemistry between he and Nick Foles. But Pierce, at the very least, is going to be good depth for you. And a problem, again, just like Duvernay is a problem for Rashad Bateman, Alec Pierce is a problem for Michael Pittman.
Problemus as we continue on. Khalil Shakir, 5 to 10%. De'Ami Brown, 3 to 5%. And Jahan Dotson, I miss him so. But sure. De'Ami Brown's taken over. And by taking over, 2 catches with 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Rondell Moore, there you go. I wish Elijah Moore was healthy. I wish Rondell Moore could stay healthy. 3 to 5% with Nuke coming back. We'll see what that does. And Darius Slayton, you promised it, Bloom. Now you get to talk about him with the Giants. 3 to 5%.
I wrestled with putting Khalil Shakir higher, but I don't think you need to bid a lot for him because if people are tuned in, they know that Isaiah McKenzie should be back soon.
He was supposed to be back last week.
Yeah, concussion. So. Well, concussion protocol. Once you get past that first week, then it's not truly indefinite, but has the potential to be indefinite. And it could be anybody, right? I mean, Dawson Knox is banged up. Gabe Davis was already banged up. Shakir can play inside and outside. And what you saw from Shakir was a steal. Swift, strong, plays with a lot of edge already. Go in and talk about overpay offers. Go make an overpay offer in a dynasty league for him. Like, offer a 2nd-round pick and something else for him.
We see a couple of those receivers fell too far. Romeo Doubs fell too far. Khalil Shakir fell too far.
Yeah, Shakir's going to be a player, and he's going to be with Josh Allen for a while. De'Ami Brown, again, speaking of college outlooks, this was what he does. He goes after the deep ball like a frisbee catching dog. He's just going to run out under that thing and catch it. And Carson Wentz can throw it pretty far. So when Jahan Dotson's back, Brown's role shrinks, but you see what you can get any given week if you put him in. Rondell Moore in that slot role that Greg Dortch made popular for fantasy just a few weeks ago. Now, I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to make it even more popular for fantasy starting next week. But for this week against Seattle, give up a lot of points. You can pick up Rondell Moore and put him in and see where we go from there. Darius Slayton, and again, I'm going to retell the story. Rookie year, Darius Slayton looked like he was going to be a long-term starter and a very good one and a downfield threat, a deep threat. I don't know what happened. I don't really know what happened that made him fall out of favor, but they didn't release him. He actually took a pay cut. I'm pretty sure. I want to say, and I could be wrong about this, he took a pay cut right before the season to stay with the team. It's like, you're taking a pay cut to stay with the Giants? And maybe he saw the writing on the wall that there was going to be opportunity by default. It did take the first 4 receivers ahead of him, and Wandale Robinson and Kadarius, maybe not Kadarius Toney, maybe not Kenny Golladay, right? You say these guys are going to get healthy, but Darius Slayton's an outside receiver, and he produced, and this offense is on the rise. So Darius Slayton is absolutely somebody that you might see 6 for 79 become kind of a regular stat line from him. And people have written him off, but not folks who remember how he played in his rookie year.
Muhammad's one of our favorites. By the way, if you're watching this video, you're one of our favorites, but we appreciate all of you. Muhammad, always in the chat room, says he loves you, Sig. You're an honest guy. There you go.
It's really great, the love we have, Cease. And I want to say this, and this was y'all before it was us, but the internet of 2020, 2022, the 2020s is about community. Maybe it was always about community, and we're just seeing it more front and center. And it's people like Muhammad, people like so many people. I mean, who I always think of when I think of our crowd, man, other than Five-ish, love
Five-ish,
Wendell, dependable Wendell.
Yes.
There's so many people. And we feel you. I mean, that's all I can really say is that we feel you. And because of that, it brightens our spirits. And I hope we can do that with the 1% wide receivers.
Daiquiri man. I may want a daiquiri, not on the show. I'm so ornery, Bloom. What happened to Cecil? Oh, fired. Kept running his mouth about stuff. Anyway, okay. Daiquiri man may want me to get a daiquiri. And let's talk about the 1%er at wide receivers, including Randall Cobb, Marvin Jones Jr., and Ben Skowronek.
Right. Randall Cobb, it could be a sign that Aaron Rodgers is getting frustrated, but you finally saw him lean on Cobb this week against the Jets. If you need, again, it's waiver wire more important bye weeks. You might be looking for someone to replace Devontae Adams or, Brandon Cooks. You've already been looking for someone to replace him. My point is, Randall Cobb can help you in a 1-week fill-in. Marvin Jones can help you in a 1-week fill-in going up against Indianapolis this week. And Ben Skowronek, see, when I was writing up Skowronek, I actually wrote roll, W-R-O-L-E. Maybe I should have left it like that. So Skowronek makes sense because of this. Sean McVay basically announcing, like, we're going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to look at what we actually can do well, or at least not do poorly. And we're going to change some things around here. Well, here's something that makes a lot of sense. Skowronek can block. Keep him on the field. He can also catch the ball. He can play some fullback. He can play some tight end. Yeah, it can do a lot of different things. So he's going to help this team, and it's baby steps. But I think that Skowronek, I wouldn't be surprised. He played more snaps than Al Robinson last week, and I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes the norm. I wouldn't be surprised if he having more fantasy value than Allen Robinson. Tutu Atwell might have more fantasy value than Allen Robinson.
It is the Audible. It is our upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire reports, the waiver wire show here, and we still have tight ends to talk about. So let's get to those tight ends. And to get to the tight ends first, we got to talk about injuries at the tight end position. Dr. Gene Brammel's full injury report, Monday injury rounds, is available at footballguys.com. Dalton Schultz, we're worried about a right knee injury, questionable for week 6. And there's others out there. We're going to talk about Kyle Pitts, the hamstring strain, day-to-day, questionable in week 6. That takes us back to our Arthur Smith conversation. So some tight ends injuries to worry about, to wonder about. I'm only wondering one thing, Sigmund. Why isn't Taysom Hill one of your rare 75+%?
Right. And I get it. I mean, I get saying 75% Taysom Hill, he's an every week starting fantasy tight end. He won a week for you if you played him.
Yeah.
So I get it. I think that the Saints have some sort of skeleton key. I mean, they know it's the Falcons. They saw it against Seattle because they're not doing this every week. They're not trying to beat teams over the head with Taysom Hill every week. And I think that because of the way Taysom Hill plays, you'd wear him out if you do that anyway. So, but again, you're right, Cease. So what if he has a 0-point floor? 90% of the tight ends in the league have a 0-point floor in any given week, but how many of them can put up 4 touchdowns? Well, Travis Kelce. Exactly. So you're right. I get it. I mean, I still think that here's something food for thought. you can see that the waiver wire is getting more intrigue as we go on through the season. So maybe I'm a little conservative for that reason, but it's fun. It's fun. Just like everyone remembered when Marcus Colston was a tight end as a rookie for the Saints. Everyone's going to remember this year that you could play Taysom Hill at tight end, even though you were really playing an option quarterback.
Yeah, the guy Zach from Buffalo saying the Audible must really be taking off their spam in the chat. Yeah, we get some of that. You didn't grow up unless you had spam, Bloom, like the fried spam.
Hey, in Hawaii, spam is like high cuisine. Like it's used in all kinds of crazy, interesting, creative ways. So watch for your spam slander there, because you may go to Hawaii and have them serve you up some. This spam is delicious.
This is fantastic. I never knew. All right, so let's get on to other tight ends, not named Taysom Hill, and we'll just talk about them all, Bloom.
Yeah,
because it's Evan Ingram, 7 to 15%. It's Hayden Hurst, 5 to 10%. And then it's Cade Otton, 1%. You know, throw it out there. See what you get.
So Evan Ingram's, he's going to have a steady role. Remember, Doug Peterson offenses do well highlighting the tight end. You're not seeing big play Evan Ingram. You're not seeing Evan Ingram scoring touchdowns, but you are seeing him remaining involved enough to be worth absorbing the floor weeks for the ceiling weeks, which are 10 to 15 point weeks in PPR leagues, but you'll take it. We move on to Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst had a pretty good game for Cincinnati. And I think that Hayden Hurst and the areas of the field he works and how quickly you can get the ball out to him helps in the whole beating cover 2 task that the Bengals are on right now. So his value might be coming up, but at the same time, T. Higgins wasn't out there. So what does Hayden Hurst do if T. Higgins is out there? So we're not going too strong to the hole for Hayden Hurst. But at the same time, the numbers are there to justify at least seeing him as your tight end 1 for now if you don't have anybody else. Cade Otton, thinking dunk bucks. Now, Cameron Brate could be back this week. Cameron Brate might not be back this week. I suppose if Cameron Brate's practicing by Thursday, Friday, he's the 1% pickup because, again, Tom Brady's going to focus on that short passing game against the Steelers this week. And yeah, Cade Otton, Khalil Shakir, these guys are arriving. There's a lot of talent. And you know what we like to say, they ain't rookies by the end of the season. And maybe Cade Otton can take that rookie tight end rule and ball it up and throw it in the trash.
Speaking of rookie tight ends, Bloom, do you know how bad the position is? I'm throwing out some love for Greg Dulcich.
Sure. And again, I'm just, every time I thought about a Bronco this week in the waiver wire column, I'm like, oh, but it's the Broncos. It's the Broncos offense, you know.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. Anything to get going here for the Broncos.
And honestly, I don't know why. Well, I mean, I guess this is a different show, but I was like, Josh Johnson, if I think of when Greg Dulcich was on the practice field, and we're talking about like 4 days, okay? You can count how many times Greg Dulcich has practiced with the Broncos on one hand of a bad woodshop teacher. So, like, okay, of the times that I remember Greg Dulcich doing anything, it was either Russ or Josh. Wasn't really Brett. So if Russell Wilson has to miss time, if it were to be Josh Johnson, I'd be more excited about Greg Dulcich, which shows you the lows of tight end.
What's the most dangerous machine in the wood shop?
Oh boy, probably table saw. Just because
table saw is bad. Table saw is pretty bad
because you're sliding it across, and like if you don't use the holder, like you can.
See, I think the secret killer is the planer. Mr. Johnson, who was our high school shop teacher, he talked about how when he was running something over the planer, it just nicked his knuckle. Just nicked it. Just a little nick. See, it's just a little cut. And he flexed his finger. Ba-doing! The tendon went right back up into his arm. Watch out for that planer.
It's gross.
It's waking you up with the Audible.
Yeah, the Audible. It is hot shop teacher talk. Yeah. Anyway.
The router, too. The router could grind up you could turn in your fingers into ground meat if you watch out with that router, man.
My shop teacher ended up putting me in, it wasn't a chokehold, but it was like
this is how all great stories start.
It was a submission hold to like get me out of class one day. Cause I'm a smart ass, right? And so like Biggie and I would take our Matchbox cars, right? And we'd slide them back and forth across the shop floor during class.
Yeah.
And so, like, I slid my favorite Corvette to Biggie on the floor, and then he took like a MIG welder and he welded the top of it, and he rolled it back to me. It was like melted metal and the wheels were melted. And I think I had some cuss words for my best friend. And then the shop teacher was like, "You can't say that." And I had some cuss words for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in a,
Yep.
arm behind my back.
You're out of here.
Yeah. And
that's
then
why you're not allowed to bring toys to school, Cease.
Well, I think that's when he realized who my dad was. And then he was like, "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean it." Yeah. So you don't make Sam Hulk mad. Lots of Sam Hulk stories for sure.
Yeah.
All
Lammey
right.
stories. Yes. That's
Mm.
the podcast.
Just watch
number
Yellowstone, everybody.
1137 will be Cecil tells stories about the Lammey clan.
I'm so mad, except we weren't rich like the ranchers on Yellowstone, and we didn't kill anybody.
At least they can't prove it.
Right. But I'm so mad because Yellowstone I always wanted to write Sopranos in the country and use my dad as like Tony Soprano, and then they came out with Yellowstone. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we were like the Yellowstone version, except we were like dirt poor, no helicopters in our ranch. But anyway, let's talk something that I think we all need to do. Yeah. And an idea from earlier in the chat room of doing one of these videos from Broncos headquarters. I could do that. Bloom, I'm leaving in 6 minutes. So we got to do 2 segments in 6 minutes. But I know one thing about this show is that we can do it. And no, I'm not wearing my Shelby hoodie to Broncos headquarters. I would got a dress shirt over there. But anyway.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. You always dress up, baby. Always dress up. Don't be as that slob that wears like Broncos gear at a Broncos facility. I'm like, seriously? Seriously. Okay. Morons. But to maybe yell at the players who have been disappointing or anything in your life that has been disappointing, you have this show here for you because it is time for audience participation. When you scream it to the heavens, I want you to cue the Chuck D. Shoutouts.
Yeah, trying to get a little more detail because this is a very much an intrigue waiver wire. Again, Baker Mayfield, you're dropping even 2 quarterback league. Russell Wilson, you're dropping for another quarterback or something else. I think Matthew Stafford, you are too. I think Teddy Bridgewater, you still have to hold on in 2 quarterback superflex. He's a shut him down if you picked him up to see what was going to happen in your 1 quarterback leagues. I'll save some others for some hold-ons because there's really, Cecil, we're getting into the weeds here, but I'm trying to help the people the best I can. There's some players that are shut them down or hold on, depending on what you're looking at. Chase Edmonds is probably a shut him down. I'm not even sure that he's going to be ahead of Myles Gaskin at this point. So, I mean, there's some value behind Raheem Mostert. I have no idea where it is. And it may well be a 3-back committee. Salvon Ahmed is still there. Yes, Antonio Gibson's a drop. What exactly are we waiting for here? He's not going to be the primary receiving back. That's J.D. McKissick. He's not going to be the primary early down back. I think that's going to be Brian Robinson. It's Washington's offense. What are we waiting for here? Like, would you rather have Antonio Gibson or Latavius Murray, Cease?
Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I mean, this is just where we end up. I think that's where we are with him. And Netflix, Craig Reynolds, I think DeAndre Swift's going to be back after the bye.
Right.
And he's back to being a 3rd string back, even in a good offense. Allen Robinson, I mean, in case you need another nudge, Russell Gage can't stay off the injury report. And even with the dink and dunk offense, I'm not sure there with him, what's in store for him. Mo Alley Cox, 1 week wonder. Maybe we'll have another week. Dalton Schultz, banged up again. Tyler Conklin, it was good while it lasted. Gerald Everett, it was good while it lasted.
Yeah, it was good while it lasted. How about so good that you just can't let him go, Bloom? And that means instead of shut him down, you have to hold on in week 6.
Yeah, there's some hold-ons here. And again, there's some subtlety here. There's some nuance, right? I'm holding on to Jared Goff unless that's who I have to drop to get Geno Smith. Holding on to Trevor Lawrence unless I think I'd rather have Geno Smith, of course, and I think I'd rather have Justin Fields than Trevor Lawrence at this point, just because of the promise of that running upside. Also, looking at running backs, hold on to Damian Harris. Don't get hasty there. Hold on to A.J. Dillon. Don't get hasty with these guys. Hold on. Harris is in a good running game. Dillon, I think the Packers offense hasn't quite come into focus yet, so don't do anything rash, even in short bench leagues. It's a little tougher call with Damian Harris there. Brandon Cooks. Houston's going to run Dameon Pierce as much as they can. And as long as they're competitive, and this is a plucky defense, they're not going to be a lot of targets. Cook's one game that he did well, they were behind by 20. So if I have to drop Brandon Cooks to get Jacoby Myers, George Pickens, maybe Devin Duvernay even. Yeah. What exactly has Cooks done to make you feel remorse about dropping him, especially with Nico Collins coming on, and especially with Dameon Pierce? And last, I'll say, let's hold on to Dawson Knox. I know he's been on their injury report. See, I think he's been on their report with 4 different things already: my neck, my back, all that. But he's still he's Josh Allen. He's Josh Allen's red zone guy.
Now, are you playing air guitar there for our viewers? Like you're like,
San Dimas High School football rules. Wait, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so I feel like I can't let go of Dawson Knox. I know, and this was part of the reason he fell to the 3rd round, and part of the reason he wasn't productive at Ole Miss, other than DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Just trouble staying healthy. But when he gets healthy, there may absolutely be something there for Dawson Knox. There's something there every week, Tuesday mornings. We love you all, and all the people in the chat room, liking, commenting, subscribing, watching till the end to make the next video load, commenting on the video after you go back when you're watching it live because it's on the video on you. It's great, folks. And really, I'm just happy that we get to do this still in the year 2022 with our wonderful people.
Yes, our wonderful people. It is the Audible Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter. I'm Cecil Lammey, whatever. And the Audible, of course, is here for you as well. Everyone, thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.